This session was recorded on the 3rd of March, 2021. You are listening to Severin Sorensen, Executive Coach and Curator of the Arete Coach Podcast, where we explore excellence and the art and science of executive coaching. Today, I interrupt our regularly scheduled Executive Coach interview series to bring you a special episode that explores a key executive coaching topic: managing family-owned business leadership transitions. In this episode, we will explore the critical topics that one must consider in managing family-owned business leadership transitions. We'll explore the entrepreneurial journey of some small businesses that went big, and we will crosswalk through a successful executive search for a hired gun professional manager who will act as the CEO guardian for a family-owned business, where the new CEO must navigate the business operations while managing the hopes, dreams, and realities of the family-owned business. Is it any wonder then that I thought focusing on family-owned business leadership transitions would be a great addition to the Arete Coach Podcast as we seek to explore excellence in the art and science of executive coaching today? First, some definitions. From Inc.com, we find this definition of family-owned businesses. A family-owned business may be defined as any business in which two or more family members are involved and the majority of ownership or control lies within a family. Family-owned businesses may be the oldest form of a business organization. When considering small businesses only, meaning companies between 2 to 99 employees, in 2018, the Small Business Administration found that small family-owned businesses accounted for 19% of all businesses, and that together, small businesses accounted for 60% of the workforce and 64% of the gross national product. Some small businesses can grow from an early green shoot stage to become quite large. According to the U.S. Census, about 90% of all American businesses are family-owned or controlled. Such businesses can range from small two-person partnerships to large Fortune 500 companies. Some notable large family businesses that have successfully navigated the turbulent waters of change include Walmart, Marriott, Samsung, and the Tata Corporation. With good management, willingness to pivot to new markets, and thoughtful management personnel transitions, family-owned businesses can grow and expand for many years. As our first business case study, let's peer into the startup and management transitions of the well-known family-owned business, Marriott Corporation. In 1927, J. Willard and Alice S. Marriott opened an A&W root beer stand in Washington, D.C., and from there they expanded their food menu to become the Hot Shop. They were hard-working entrepreneurs and parents, and they got their children involved working in the business at an early age. Like many entrepreneurs, the Marriotts had a keen sense for detecting changes in consumer demand in an emerging market. For instance, early on, the Marriotts observed a number of business travelers stopping by their hot shop to purchase sandwiches to take on their airplane flights, and the idea of food service for flights was born. The Marriotts kept expanding their services by listening to clients, observing buyer behavior, experimenting, and leaning into future of the company. In 1957, they opened their first hotel known as the Twin Bridges Marriott. It's a very important location and property, and it was the first hotel that they got into. J.W. Marriott, the founding member, had two sons that were active in the business, Bill and Dick. Both worked in the business, with Bill Marriott Jr. being appointed president in 1964. This second generation of family-owned business leaders grew, and they grew the business, bringing along with them a slew of capable hands to help them. They grew this business with a family-owned culture and kept expanding the business to higher and higher heights. In 1993, the company was split into two companies in a move that was controversial at the time. The entities were Marriott, the operator of the hotels and the real estate development branch, and Host Marriott, the owner of the hotels and the operator of the airport and turnpike concessions. In the transaction, Bill Marriott was to become the CEO of Marriott Corp., and Dick Marriott was to become the CEO of Host Marriott Corp., and they sat on each other's boards. Now, I am greatly simplifying this corporate history, But you start to see how family-owned businesses work and how they figure out how to navigate family issues, or they don't, and they have to figure out something else. The family in this instance continued to bring on more talent. They entered more industries, and they filled out their hotel product lines with new brands that crossed a spectrum of consumer income ranges, from Fairfield Inns to Courtyards to Residence Inns to Marriott's, the Marquis Marriotts, and the exclusive Ritz-Carltons. The third generation of Marriotts also worked in the company, including new additions of talent brought in by spouses of family members, and many of them were great leaders and added much value. At some point, however, there became a realization among the family owners and shareholders that identifying outside talent to run the company would best serve the family and the shareholders of the company. And the businesses were largely transitioned to professional management with a strong influence of the Marriott family stewarding the culture and strategic directions of the companies. In 2012, Arete Sorensen, by the way, no relation to me, was a hired gun executive who had been groomed for corporate leadership and was brought in to help the company as CEO. Now, he didn't start as CEO there. He actually was their outside attorney years before, and they recruited him to come inside the company to learn the roles of the business. He started as associate general counsel, moved to senior vice president, later to CFO, then to COO, before becoming president and CEO of the company in 2012. Under his leadership, Marriott Corporation acquired the $13 billion acquisition of Starwood Hotels and Resorts, which made Marriott Corporation the largest global chain with 1.4 million rooms, including 30 hospitality brands. Note in this thread that Marriott Corporation pulled into their company great leaders and trained them and rotated them throughout the company, learning various roles of the business before putting them in the top leadership seats of the bus. There is wisdom here for parents seeking to put their adult children into the leadership seats of their proverbial business buses. Additionally, as in the case of Marriott, at some point family businesses are likely to need to pull in-house some outside talent, and it is possible to identify, train, and cultivate that talent to continue the family-owned business culture, ethos, and vision. Now let's move to the core topic of today, the management of family-owned business leadership transitions to family and non-family members. There is a phrase, starters are many and finishers are few. That is certainly the case for family-owned businesses. Entrepreneurs of many types start businesses because they are inherently good at something, and they frequently work harder and smarter than their peers and start a business as entrepreneurs. Along comes the second generation, seeing mom and dad work in the business, and many times they get that same feel for the hard work and love for the company that their parents have and grew on the enterprise, something they call often their baby. And many times the second generation, having grown up with the work ethic viewed in the home, they turn out to be great business operators as well. However, by the time the business reaches the third generation, the family patterns, wealth, and lifestyles have been so impacted that few third generation leaders successfully navigate this change. That's where getting real world experience, executive coaching, executive peer groups, and mentoring come in for the families and their children of these family-owned businesses. Business Week reported about 40% of U.S. family-owned businesses turn into second-generation businesses, and approximately 13% are passed down successfully to third generation, and only 3% make it to a fourth generation or beyond. Why? Well, the reasons are many. Family drama, divorce, arguments, some children working harder than others, some more interested in the business than others. And one clear issue is that the entrepreneurial drive that rides with the first generation, often forged through extreme sacrifice, is gradually weaned from the management ranks as each generation enjoys the ease and opportunity of higher levels of affluence. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to coach one outstanding young executive who was one of 25 nieces and nephews of a fourth generation business in the Northwest. The goal of the founders was to keep the business together so that it would be a blessing and helpmeet to the family and their children for generations. In this instance, the founders brought in a consultant to assess the work style, acumen, ability, and goodness of fit of the youngest generation to see if any could take the company to the next generation. Of 25 heirs, only 2 were determined to have the physical makeup, mindset, and ethos to groom for management. Others would be dividend recipients only. One of the future stars was put into my key executive group, and he managed a multi-state region of family businesses. His cousin was also put into a peer group in another multi-state region, and both cut their teeth in a management setting, getting real-world experience. Before they were to return to headquarters to replace their parents as top leaders of the company, they were given a journey or a life path of education where they would manage different business units, they would be coached and trained, and they would return to MBA school where they would learn more about the business before returning eventually to headquarters to take over the company. Now, years later, the next generation is leading the company, and the cycle of great management continues. Their multi-generational transition success was no accident and took much planning, grooming, and forethought. Starting in November 2020, I had the opportunity to help a family-owned business and its owner with a sensitive and timely key transition, identifying and placing a difference-making CEO in the top position of her company. An individual in an acting president's role was in place, and it was determined by the family business owner that it was time for a CEO to run the business. The goals for a new CEO would be for them to be a steward of the business, driver the business strategy, and mentor the next generation of leaders for this promising family-owned business. A little history on this situation. In 1996, a father and mother purchased controlling interest in a residential construction industry business that grew and was today a successful family-owned business with 300 or more employees, 2 manufacturing facilities, managing both product development, innovation, sales, installation, and service. This husband and wife team operated the business for a number of years, growing from stage to stage, working in and on the business, with the husband being the primary driver and visible leader of the company. Then sadly, the CEO husband died prematurely of health issues, leaving the co-founder mother to wrestle with the issues of running the business alone. Over a period of years, several internal and external management moves were made to provide governance and organizational support, while the widowed owner of the company built up her own capacity to run the business. Alas, in November 2020, the owner determined it was time for the company to grow again, and she wanted a strong leader to come in, provide leadership, consolidate the factories, grow the company, and groom the next generation of leaders, including her adult-age sons, who are now starting to work in the business. I received a call around Thanksgiving of 2020 indicating that the owner had determined it was nearing the time for her to find a difference-making CEO, and she wanted to speak with me about her goals, interests, and highest aspirations for the CEO. On background, our search firm had placed a difference-making director of sales into her organization this past summer, and the new executive was working out so well, she asked if I might be able to help her find a CEO to run her company. I was informed that there were at least 3 internal candidates that would be considered in the process, and that I was to run our executive search business process with all deliberate speed, as the need was current and her urgency was great. I was informed to contemplate the search and to prepare, but not to start until she had determined that she affirmatively wanted to begin the search. Notice to proceed with the executive search came in the form of a contract ratification on the 4th of December, and our executive search processes were in full start. We immediately engaged. What follows is a historical narrative of our 10-step executive search process from beginning to end. Step 1 of our process is the CEO position specification and requirements determination. I interviewed the owner, key executives, and determined the ideal attributes of the candidate that we wanted to most find. For our past search for the director of sales, we had previously had the business owner and executive team take a psychometric assessment to determine their operating and behavioral styles, their business acumen, and core competencies in the workplace. This gave us a head start in figuring out what we needed in the new executive. Over the years, I have developed a detailed questionnaire that I use to start this most important first step of the executive search process. It includes exploring answers to questions such as, who are the companies you admire who you share the same culture that you would invite talent to apply? Who are the competitor companies with cultures not in harmony with your values and culture so that we don't approach them? What will the next CEO have done in the past, and so on? Next, we conducted research to determine the likely field of candidates, competitive compensation, and the cultural attributes of the who we most wanted to find in this next CEO. Lastly, and likely most importantly, we also detailed the highest aspirations of the business owner for how she viewed the role of CEO and what she wanted to do with the company, for her employees and for her children, and what this new CEO meant in terms of future mentoring and coaching of the next generation of internal leaders. This step was completed in a matter of days since we had a head start from the prior search. Typically, this phase takes a few days to a week to complete. Step 2 was preparation of the detailed behavioral position description. From step 1, we've collected the requirements, and we use those to frame out the position description to be posted online and used internally in our search. Our position descriptions are not industry standard and are typically longer, more aspirational, and we write about the person we most want to find by the behavioral attributes. For example, you know you're the right CEO candidate we are seeking if you are an achiever who likes to win repeatedly and sees your role as a team developer, nurturer, mentor, and coach. Over several days, we drafted several iterations of the CEO position description, working closely with the business owner and HR director, and we felt that we had the right document at version 1.5. This phase typically takes 3 to 7 days to complete, depending on how many stakeholders are involved in the process. Step 3 was the preparation of a push and pull candidate sourcing plan. We want to push out to the marketplace news that the position is available through all reasonable means possible, such as Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Google Jobs, job boards, company websites, and so on. Next, we sponsored our CEO position availability with premium listings on Indeed and LinkedIn. What most don't realize is that Indeed is the powerhouse of search engines, representing some 52% of all individuals placed. And it was true this time. Our final candidate was initially sourced through Indeed. We also posted a premium listing with LinkedIn and received multiple strong candidates. However, the craft of executive search is the extensive back office candidate research that one does to identify difference-making top talent that are not actively looking for a new position. This is something we call our pull candidate funnel strategy. We are literally researching, identifying, contacting, and pulling into our candidate funnel passive candidates that are not actively searching for a new position. Before we ever posted the position online, we identified 65 plus potential candidate prospects who were either currently or previously had held CEO, president, or C-level positions with companies similar to the one we were seeking to fill, or were in close adjacencies. We developed our own internal contact directory for these industry prospects, including their LinkedIn profiles, email addresses, mobile phone numbers, work histories, and prior significant achievements. The closest thing comparable to our activity at this stage is the work of a college sports recruiter or a scout who builds a database of prospects of high school top prospects for college recruiting. Step 4 is the setup of the position in the automated applicant tracking system. The position was set up on the 10th of December. With the setup comes the online version of the posting and the listing and the screening questions. In this search, we held up the public visibility of the CEO position posting for internal reasons, while we quietly cultivated our own lists of known and desirable industry insiders that we wanted to approach to seek their interest in this position. The position was formally posted on the 28th of December. Step 5 is the sourcing stage. In this CEO search, we sourced over 227 candidates for the position, including the 65 industry insider candidates that we found through our own internal research prior to posting the position. I have a team of highly experienced executive search talent that works round the clock following the sun on these searches. And we were actively mining candidates online, scouring databases, directories, services, and job boards, seeking to find the best talent for this position. Executive search is a business of statistics and probabilities of success. We know that if we have only 26 candidates for a position, the likelihood of error is 10% that we do not have a normal candidate pool distribution. And if we're seeking to hire the top 10% candidates, we can only hire 2.6 candidates from this pool. At 64 candidates, we know that we have a 5% probability of error, that our talent pool is not normal. And if we're seeking to hire the top 10% level, we could potentially hire the top 6.4 candidates from a pool of 64. As the talent pool population rises, your chance of error gets smaller and smaller. At 99 candidates, you have only a 1% error rate that your talent population distribution is not normal. And if you're seeking the top 5% of talent, you could hire any of the top 5 best fitting candidates. In our searches, we seek to get a minimum of 64 candidates with a target of 100 candidates per executive position. This helps us statistically reduce our error of sourcing. But in this search, using our method, we were able to source over 227 candidates, and we shut down our sourcing window early in the process. Step 6 is our first cut, the top 30. One of the challenging parts of the executive search is sifting through all the data to find out what's important and what's not important. For step 1, we knew what we wanted: a family-owned business experience, industry or adjacent industry experience, growth mindset, experience taking companies from here to there several times. Emotional intelligence was important, leadership, being a player coach, and someone with keen intellect, along with finding someone who had present interest and past experience in handling the family-owned business issues, including mentoring of the owner's children. So we screened for these things early on in our process. Our internal team reviewed the candidate database and up-selected the top 30 candidates that included 3 internal candidates who were invited to compete for the position. We kept the candidate funnel open during the phone interview screening process, and 2 additional candidates surfaced that were as good as the top 30, so a total of 32 candidates were interviewed for the position. There is nothing that helps one find their place in the universe of talent better than to compete for your own promotion head-to-head with top industry talent. Many times, internal talent rises to the challenge. I recall one instance where the competition itself lit a fire under one internal candidate of a medical device manufacturing company, and he went on to achieve much higher heights inside the company. At other times, the internal candidates see in the process the outside talent brought in is so much more ready to lead, and they can also learn from this new executive. We next phone interviewed the top 32 candidates, recorded the interviews, made notes of key points and takeaways of each interview. We ranked again the candidates to determine our top 12 candidates that were recommended for panel interview. Step 7 is our psychometric testing and panel interview stage. We use a 48-metric psychometric assessment to gauge pre-employment a candidate's workplace behaviors, motivations, acumen, and core competencies. We prepare individual assessment reports and team reports comparing the business owner with all the top panel candidates. We held weekly CEO selection committee huddles where we reviewed all data and openly discussed the merits of each candidate and the relative goodness of fit. At this stage, approximately half of our panel candidates were industry insiders, and the other were outstanding operators and CEOs from close adjacent industries. We next invited the top 12 candidates to panel interviews that we conducted over 2 days over Zoom. The panel interviews were 50 minutes in length, scheduled on the hour with a periodic break worked into the schedule. In advance, I wrote scripted questions, approximately 20 for the interview, that were drawn from the requirements prepared in step 1 and the detailed position description from step 2. Questions ranged from the opening question: in 3 to 5 minutes, give us the nutshell of your career and why you are the best fit for this position. We asked other questions that were necessary and identified as must-haves in our pre-work. We reviewed all the key data points and observed keenly their responses, listening for nuance in the candidates' answers. We asked each candidate a challenge question, seeking to identify the knockout question for each candidate based on all the data we'd gathered about them to date. This is where it is truly worth having an executive recruiter ask the tough questions so that if it goes wrong, it does not influence the candidate's view of the company, but rather the interviewer. The interview ended with the giving of the candidate an opportunity to ask whatever they wanted to ask, and then we closed the interview and rated each candidate. Importantly, in our interviews, we advise our panel members to keep their own notes and scoring and report only their first, second, and third place for the candidates. So in this case, we asked for the top 6 of the 12 we were interviewing. We know from research that ranks of candidates are comparable using tools like the Spearman rank coefficient. However, individual scores from different raters may be biased. After the last interview was conducted, the CEO selection committee reconvened, and we each provided our top candidate ranks, and a master tabulation was prepared within minutes of the completion of panel interviews. The top candidates were invited to move to the next stage. Step 8 is the crucible of our hiring selection process. It is the past work demonstration assignment that separates the pretenders from the superstars, and this search was no different. It is not uncommon in our executive searches that the number one candidate coming out of the panel interviews is not the number one candidate following the work demonstration phase. If a candidate can rank high in both trials, they are equally culturally good fitting, emotionally intelligent, and wicked smart, and those are highly desirable attributes. The scholarly research on hiring and talent selection shows that the singularly most important method in determining that the candidate in consideration can do the work is the one who can demonstrate that they have done the work before, or that they can do the work in a timely manner in your presence. So I give this past work demonstration assignment typically over 5 days to include a weekend and preferably a holiday. Nothing tells you as much about a leader as their ability to prioritize and get their work done and enjoy their private time as well. So here's what we sent to the top 6 candidates that moved forward to the past work phase. Our next step of due diligence is what we call our past work demonstration phase, where we invite you to send us examples of your best work in the role of CEO or senior executive. Research shows that no pretest of a candidate's viability is more powerful than the demonstration of their past work. Importantly, we are not looking for anything proprietary, confidential, or trade secret. Please use the black marker and block out any information we should not see. However, what we are looking to see are examples of your best work product, so please keep the structure of your writing so that we can see how you regularly report up and down the corporation while fulfilling your key roles. Consequently, please provide me with your best writing samples of the following information types requested below on or before, and I gave a date and time that it would be required, 5 days later. Please send these samples via shared Dropbox or Google Drive to the following address. We gave them an address. So what did we request? Well, this particular position was a CEO, so we had crafted the past work assignment to be related to what a CEO of high standard would be doing. First request, give us an example of managing up. Examples could include communications to the CEO, examples of managing up, communications that a CEO would make, perhaps to the board, to shareholders, or other senior executive committee members. This could have been any communication, something to update the board or compel the board or the leaders to make or take substantial action. Examples could be like a return on investment calculation, master plan, strategic plan, annual report, whatever. Step 2, managing laterally and down to your direct reports of the company. We are interested in knowing what people are doing and how they treat those around them at the same level as well as their junior reports. Examples there could be weekly agendas, training meetings, cadence, notes, and so on. Item 3, what are the KPIs, dashboards, and key management information that you track? Please provide an illustration of how you do this. It's a very important illustration. Step 4, important for the CEO. Please give us an example of your mastery of Microsoft Excel and your ability to model business decisions using these tools. We obviously have many things we're looking for there, but we hope to see an assumptions tab, a summary tab, and many other pages, as well as data that tell us they understand how to model business decisions. Then we asked for other things that were specific to a position, and we wanted to see what they had done as it was related to this particular industry. The final one, wildcard. We asked for any document that's germane to the position that demonstrates their ability to strategically think and implement tactically. So that's what we did. And what was interesting about this is we told them if there is a document that you are providing that is not entirely of your own making, please note the degree of your authorship so that we may understand your own skill set in these matters. Should you have any questions on a request, please let me know. We look forward to viewing your best work. Now, at this point, you might be saying, I can't believe that Severin would ask for all that data or that anyone would comply. On the contrary, awesome talent often have all these samples ready and can respond within 4 hours of the request, as they have already prepared such documents, and they use the time to scrub away sensitive information while leaving the body of their analysis and thinking. Here are some examples of prior top candidates. In a past search, a CFO candidate that we hired responded with all of the examples requested in great clarity and presentation within 4.5 hours of posting the assignment. We were stunned. We were stunned by the quality and the speed of his submittals. We were stunned by how well they were submitted and the visualization and the thought he had taken for them. And so I contacted this candidate to express, hey, your work looks great, and you still got 5 days to add your submittals if you'd like. The candidate said, nope, I'm done. You played right into my trap. I've been preparing documents for 2 weeks to show you my great work, and I was puzzled how to show you my work without coming off as a braggart. Then you gave me the past work assignment request, and I was thrilled. I completed the entirety of the assignment, save one question within 30 minutes, as I'd already completed all the items. As this is a CFO position, you asked for me to demonstrate my financial analysis and provided me with some financials. That did take me 4 hours to do, and so that's why it took me 4.5 hours to respond. So yes, I'm done, and I look forward to hearing about next steps. Meantime, in the same search, our number 2 candidate called to complain repeatedly over the next 5 days about how stupid this past work assignment request was, with words like, I'm a professional. I really do good work. This is silly for me to do this work. I told them, yes, it may be silly. And while I know your work is of high quality, my client does not know. And until they actually see your good work for themselves, they will not know either. And you will not proceed in our search. The candidate called several more times to complain about the process and ultimately submitted their quality submittals, and they were of high quality, yet they submitted them 15 minutes before the deadline on the 5th day. Now I ask you, who would you pick? What did we learn? This assignment is much more than a request for materials. This is a behavioral process to determine goodness of fit. And the first candidate demonstrated their great preparedness, their emotional maturity, forward thinking, and by the way, they were hired for the CFO position, and they are still at the same firm today, adding value now for over 10 years. I have had other outstanding talent that was very capable, ultimately win or lose the position on the past work sample assignment. The assignment seems to pull out of people their emotions, and you learn who understands it's just a test and roll with it, and others get emotionally triggered and crash and burn, and you see the real person drawn out by this assignment. I have much more I could say about this past work sample stage. However, I'll save it for another discussion. Normally, if I give a past work assignment out to 6 candidates, 2 candidates will immediately quit and withdraw from the process. Another will inform me that they have all the documents. However, due to confidentiality, they cannot send anything. And so they therefore ask to be considered without submitting any homework. I thank them for their integrity, as truly we do not want to receive anything proprietary, confidential, or trade secret. However, I informed them they still need to demonstrate that they have the capacity, and they are requested to make dummy work to demonstrate their capacity. Then generally 2 to 3 of the top candidates submit work of high quality, and often one of these is off the charts good, something I call outer worldly. In our most recent search, 6 candidates were invited to submit past work samples, and all 6 submitted. Interestingly, the number 1 candidate from the panel interviews remained number 1 after the past work demonstration phase, a rarity and a great sign of the candidate's prospect in our search. Additionally, of interest, the number 8 pre-panel interview ranked candidate leapfrogged in the panel interviews to be in the top 6. He was invited to do the past work assignment, and he leapfrogged again from being in the top 6 to now being number 2 because of the power of the work samples. They were truly awesome and were of high standard. The other candidates were all arranged according to their past work and all other data collected, and we invited the top 3 candidates to move forward to the final stage. Step 9, finals interviews. Step 9 is the finals interview stage, and these were scheduled for the week of February 22nd, 2021. We invited the top 3 candidates for this stage and placed them in interview order of 3, 2, 1. This is important because it causes the selection committee to consider each candidate and proverbially raise the bar on the candidates to follow, almost like ranking ski jumpers on a course. The week was planned with all the schedule of meetups, off-site meals and meetings with the executive team, business owners, stakeholders, and visits to 2 factories and the headquarters facility. It was exhausting and informative. The candidate energy takes a beating, and you get to see the finalist candidates in so many lights. In our process, all members of the company are stakeholders and are invited to submit their observations to the selection committee. We arranged for rides to the factories and mills with different stakeholders in the vehicles to have time for them to speak one-to-one with the candidates. We also prepared for one-to-one and triad meetups with each executive on the team so they individually could meet and make their own personal assessment of the finalist candidates. At the end of the finalist day, we schedule the candidate to present 3 new work presentations. First, they answer a new work homework assignment that we provide on a topic of key interest to the company. Second, the candidates bring their written questions for discussion on their own due diligence for the opportunity. And third, the candidates are asked to prepare a fast start plan for their first week, month, second month, and third month. The candidates are asked to prepare to present their materials as though they were making a company presentation, so that this too is a demonstration of them standing up in the front as the leader of the team. During the past work demonstration phase, we get to see the original work of the candidate. We don't know how long it took for the candidate to prepare the past work samples, nor truly do we know how much authorship they had of those documents they submit, though we do have our methods for determining their level of authorship. During the final stage, we asked the finalists for new work to demonstrate their current level of thinking, creativity, speed, accuracy, and presentation skills that are much like what they might experience in working in the role as a CEO. In this instance, we posted the new work presentation as the following. Please share with us your thoughts on safety, quality assurance, and risk mitigation for the company, and what you will do to audit and ensure that we have the best practices implemented at our company. It was a great assignment that allowed them to be creative, research, and bring their best efforts to the company leadership. Candidates 1 and 2 were fantastic at this assignment, and either could clearly run the company. When the week of the finals interviews arrived, I was notified that our 3rd finalist had accepted another CEO position and withdrew from the competition on the eve of their finals interview. Thankfully for us, they were the 3rd and not our 1st or 2nd ranked candidate. Yet this shows you something. You have to move swiftly in this process to do your due diligence and bring candidates along, because the great candidates will always have many options. We proceeded to the finals interview with our top 2 candidates, and truly we wondered before the interviews if there was a way to hire both of them, as they were both awesome. During the finals interviews, one of the finalists seemed to gel much better with the owner and the key stakeholders and team members. The candidate demonstrated great abundance, curiosity, team building, and figuring out how everyone on the company bus could continue to work together with a new CEO. They were focused on building and not destroying and seemed to uplift everyone they were around. The finalists were able to spend quality one-on-one time with the business owner and the owner's children. The family business CEO is a guardian of the business and the owner's interest, and this special role of mentoring, nurturing, and taking a keen interest in the next generation of leaders was not lost on the selection committee. The human aspect of talent selection is so important. We had previously psychometrically tested the owner and members of the executive team, and we had insights on their behaviors and core competencies. We ran analysis of the top candidates with our diagnostics to help us find insights and questions to probe during the on-site interviews. Throughout the process, we wined and dined together with the candidates to find out even more about them. And unfortunately, I gained 5 pounds that week that I immediately set about to shed on return home with some intermittent fasting. When the finals were over, the CEO selection committee met and we sought the business owner's view of what she wanted to do. It was clear to her that one candidate strongly matched the goals and objective of the company that we set out to achieve. She wanted to hear from all of her team members their views on the candidates before she made her final decision. The next morning, I took the top finalists to the airport, and I shared how much I enjoyed meeting them and hoped that for all that this would work out for each other. Later on that day, I was informed by the business owner that the top finalist who I had taken to the airport would indeed be offered the position. We subsequently moved to our final step of selection process. Step 10, compensation negotiations and background references. In our process, we do not hire until we have the background references conducted and green lights all around on the references. Believe it or not, we have had experiences where everything looks great and a candidate comes out of finals as number one, and then we can't get a solid reference for the candidate and we have to pass along and not proceed with that candidate. In our process, we ask for a minimum of 5 references representing a 360-degree view of the candidate, interviewing supervisors, peers, and direct reports. In this instance, the candidate provided 7 references and all were interviewed. We pay special attention to several traits of a candidate. Do people follow them to their next assignment? In this case, several of the references had followed the CEO for over 10 years from role to role. We also seek individuals that are left behind and promoted, and the CEO left his junior report in the role of president on his departure from a past company. We also look at mentoring, and we interviewed those that the candidates had previously mentored. All the references were solid, and we gave green lights to the client. Our strategy on compensation is to work with the business owner or owner's representative prior to the search to benchmark where compensation is likely to be at the end of the search. When seeking the top 5 to 10% talent, you cannot look at the 50th percentile compensation tables and think that any top talent would take that comp lower than their value contribution to the firm. Top talent gets top pay, and in this search, we look for candidates who believed in a bet on me compensation plan. CEOs who bet on themselves with a compensation plan in alignment with the owner have confidence and experience in achieving their goals and are less concerned about their base salary and far more concerned about their overall compensation and contribution to the company. We use a 2-step strategy in our negotiations of putting together a 1-page simple outline of compensation. And then when agreed, we move to the second stage and use the attorney drafted agreement, often prepared by our client's attorney, with modifications including attaching the 1-page compensation outline. These negotiations took place in earnest with good-natured and goodwill back and forth dialogue, and on March 3rd, 2021, the candidate ratified the employment agreement and in 30 days will join the company. We are thrilled. So to sum up, in 88 days, we were able to source, identify, screen, select, vet, and extraordinary talent for the CEO position. This was quicker than expected, as getting the family-owned business executive tends to take longer for goodness and fit issues. Through our process, we tested, stressed, socialized, warmed, and rationalized the new CEO candidate into the company leadership. Looking back over our process and our placement journey, We were able to find a been there, done that CEO from the same industry who had grown a prior business from the tens of millions to over 140 million in 9 years. Thereafter, the candidate had moved to other family-owned businesses and repeated this growth pattern, working to help children of businesses and their owners get prepared and mentored for the increasingly responsible positions of management of the company. Interestingly, the CEO candidate selected has a core team that has followed him from company to company, and they just love working for him. And I'm sure the company tent is big enough that in the coming days, as needs surface, some of his past team members will migrate to this new company as well. And so now the process of green and growing begins again. The family business owner has achieved her greatest desire, a guardian for the company who is a grower, planner, mentor, and coach, and who has a compensation plan in place that is crafted so that owner and CEO are in tight alignment of the objectives. I think this placement is one of the ones to watch for me, and I will track their progress with interest as I do all my past placements. So, how well did we do? Well, time will tell. In the present, however, here's a message I received this week from the HR director. Severin, I received the candidate signed offer package last night. As I told you, you have been a valuable resource and support to us during this journey. We truly appreciate your efforts to help us find the best CEO for our company. I responded, that's truly great news. I'm so glad the next CEO is under contract and that the next era of the company begins. It was a wonderful journey to take together, and I'm happy to have contributed to the result. I'm curious, if you were to describe where you were at Thanksgiving time with all the uncertainty and angst over the CEO position, compared to now with a great fitting CEO candidate in place, how would you describe that in this moment? I asked for her thoughts. She replied, I would describe it as going from feeling like I'm at the bottom of the swimming pool looking up, knowing that someone will throw the life ring to me, to bursting through the surface of the water to take a deep breath of air. The relief and excitement at the same time feels great, ! Guy Raz, in his How I Built This podcast, asked his guests, to what degree is luck a critical part of their success? I'll answer that question here for our recent CEO search. We have a great process. Our process is informed by science and leads to statistically better results. Yet there is still luck and uncertainty involved. Our process of sourcing talent through multiple channels leads to us finding our eventual CEO. Our process of talent selection and methods helps us weed out talent earlier so we can focus on the top talent in our pool. Yet there is still risk in this search. We had a great talent pool, almost double the size of what we normally source. We had over 227. So this gives me some comfort given our guarantees that we provide in our placements. I do think that we could have hired any of our top 3 candidates in the pool and called this search a success. However, in our current case, hiring our number 1 candidate, I think we have found and placed a unicorn, and that's what we pride ourselves in doing in our executive search process. So our journey today was to explore the entrepreneurial journey of some small businesses that went big, and we crosswalked through a successful executive search for a hired gun professional manager who will now act as the CEO guardian for a family-owned business where the new CEO must navigate the business operations while managing the hopes, dreams, and realities of a family-owned business. Is it any wonder then that this topic, helping family-owned businesses cross the chasm of leadership, whether it's from generation to generation or bringing others in, is an important part of coaching? I think it is. It's been a fun experience to reflect on it this day. As we close, I end each podcast with a quote or two. And I have several related to family-owned businesses here that I find ironic. First comes from a musical artist from Danny Harrison, the son of Beatles phenom George Harrison. Playing music has always felt very natural. You know, you do try to do other things and you learn to do lessons that way, but eventually, well, if your dad is a plumber, you become a plumber. It's the family business, and I felt like I was taking over the family business. And a little humor on a similar vein from Claude Picasso, the artist, son of the famous Pablo Picasso. I could have been born into any family. I was fortunate, and I was born to an artist as extraordinary as Picasso, and Picasso turned out to be the family business. This is why I tell my adult children, I apologize, I have ruined you for life. You have grown up under the roof of an inventive and disruptive entrepreneur, and you are doomed to work for others, as you are likely to become anxious and want to strike out on your own to build something capturing your own passions. So go get the foundation and learning experiences, and when you are ready to start your own business, I will be most delighted to coach you. Until next time, be your best self. Seek to uplift others, be good, and do good. You have been listening to Severin Sorensen and the Arete Coach Podcast, where we explore excellence and the art and science of executive coaching today. With each of our podcasts, we leave you with a resource that can help you with some of the content that was discussed. Today, the content discussed related to executive search. That happens to be one of the practices that my company ePraxis works on. At ePraxis, we have executive coaching, talent selection, and executive search. And we have methods that can help family business owners and others who are looking to find talent and have that talent suitably fitted and tested so that you are creating the talent that you want in your new business. So if that's of interest to you, please reach out. I'd be delighted to talk to you and explore if something would be helpful for you in that way, or if I might be able to refer you to others if there's a better specialist for you in your industry. Again, that would be ePraxis.com, and I'm Severin Sorensen, CEO. I'd be delighted to talk to you about it.